The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the New Media Factory. Some programs on this network might include strong images and language and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Would you come if I asked you to ride with me on this one-way road that leads? Well, I don't know, but I will take you anywhere you see. I know what you need, and what you got is exactly what I
Hey there, welcome to Counterflow. This is James Deacon with
Alan Sevilla.
and
I'm back.
we're kind of alone here today. No Pacho Blanco, no Ryan Cruz, no William Herrera.
No Albert.
No Albert.
But who knows, he might call.
He may call actually.
If we talk about F1.
I'm gonna actually put this on Facebook right now. So forgive me. Give me a second because I want to get an interaction with you guys over a few different topics that we're going to talk about. And join us over Twitter. It's at jdeacon782. That's one way to get a hold of us, or of course you can always just post on our individual Facebook accounts.
And how about the number? I think we have a number here, just in case.
We do. 4, 7, 8. Dan, can you do that? That's
4, 7, 8. That's 6. And then that's 7. 9, 5, 4. There.
Oh man.
I will be able to repeat that.
Yeah.
I thought you memorized it already.
No. Our whiteboard's going to come up in just a second.
Okay, all right. That's better because I think I screwed it up.
Yeah.
They
Well,
will be able to-
let's do this over Twitter, Facebook, whichever way you want. There's also Skype, Mr.Counterflow or Mr. Counterflow. Number is 478-7954. 478-7954.
There you go.
Talk to us because there's so much going on. Firstly, let's talk about while people are getting engaged and they're getting their phones ready. I have a very controversial topic I'd like to talk to you about in just a bit. But we'll start off with the Subaru Challenge. Did you check that out?
No, but I was able to see pictures from you, those
Okay.
that you posted on Facebook.
All right.
And it was the Manila leg, if I'm not mistaken. because
Manila leg.
The first one was in Cebu, if I'm not
Cebu.
Cebu. Okay.
Then we went to Davao, and then we went to the fort, and it goes to Pampanga next weekend.
Okay.
So basically, we're looking for 10 people to represent the country in Singapore for a chance to win that car. It's going to be pretty cool. It's a 1.2 million peso,
Yeah.
2-liter manual transmission Subaru Impreza.
That's okay.
And
How do you join?
Well,
is it
you
pre-selected
can probably
or?
no. You just go on the website motorimage.net/ph. That's a good way to check them out, or facebook.com/ I love Subaru, and that will take you to the Motor Image page. Either one of those sites, you can You can download the form, and I think you can still apply for Pampanga. And that is going to be held there at that mall near the NLX, that last mall that you go to. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay.
But certainly a challenge and a half. I mean,
What's the best time? Because you've hosted most of all of the.
I've
Subaru
hosted everyone
Impreza
since
Challenge.
2008, and the best time so far in the Philippines, it's not indicative because we cut the event short.
Okay. So this time it's a lot shorter
We
compared
don't
to
do
last
it
year.
for a maximum of like 12 hours
12
plus,
hours, yeah.
because we don't really have the venue to keep them going. And it's also unfair, if you think about it, to put somebody through 3 days of it and then
But
what
it's
they
been
win.
done back then, right?
Yes, but then would they win a chance to what? Do it all over again?
Yeah, that's
Your prize
correct.
is to
Yeah,
do it
you're
again.
right,
It's kind of a bit.
That's cruel.
Yeah, it's cruel.
You're right.
Actually, inhumane. So what we've done is pocket events, 12 hours, and we let them sort of stay there. We introduce challenges like we make them lift up their leg.
Yeah, I
we
know.
make them lift up their arm with a bottle of water.
And usually you get them by doing that.
You will get them. They drop off. I love to say once you introduce something like they have to do this, for example. Imagine lifting one leg
Yeah,
up
you're right.
like that, and the leg's not allowed to touch the ground, and this has to touch there, all while having their hands
my
in the car.
gosh, that's
These guys
insane.
fall off like congressmen and senators in a pork barrel Senate hearing.
But there's only one representative from each. For example, in Cebu, you only
One
get
from
one.
Cebu, one from Davao, one from Pampanga, and
So-
7 from Metro Manila.
So why 7?
Yeah, because the
Okay.
general population seems to be here, so
Alright.
they give them 7 slots. So it makes up a team of 10,
10,
that will
okay.
fly over to Singapore. Now, if you already fly over to Singapore, you're already a bit of a winner because you get $300 pocket money, 10,000 pesos
Accommodations,
cash.
right? Yeah.
You get a hotel room that you will never stay in because you'll be stuck there in the mall with your hand in the car. But it's there, I'm just saying. They're quite polite about that. You also get a chance to win several different prizes because countries have their own individual challenges. For example, the Philippines they give special prize for the last person standing for that country.
Okay.
So a guy called Alex Neblaska is a guy who won it in 2011, I remember, and he stood there for 67 hours.
67.
So he beat out the rest of the Philippine team. Now, he didn't win the car, but he won 6,000 US Singapore dollars. $6,000 plus he also took home his pocket money and all that. So, it was for him, and he got the trip to Singapore. So, for him, sulit talaga.
Yeah, can you imagine 67? That's so hard. That's
Well,
painful.
The record is 81 hours, 32 minutes.
Is it from a Filipino?
No, no Filipino. Nobody except only a Singaporean has ever won the car. Nobody else. No other. And considering you have 10 other countries there from Southeast Asia, you have
How many representatives? Like from
10 from each.
From
So
each,
10
right?
from Philippines, 10 from Vietnam, 10 from Indonesia.
all from
10
Asia? They don't have like,
Only where Motor Image sell cars.
Oh, okay.
So it's all around Southeast Asia.
All right.
They have Japan as well. They have
Thailand,
Indonesia,
right?
Thailand.
Yeah.
I think maybe even Korea. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And basta 10 countries send 10, and that equivalates. There it goes again. Equivalates. Google it. It's going to be in the
Equivalates.
modern dictionary soon. I'm pushing to make that a real word.
all right.
There is 10 from each country, so that's 100. And then 400 from Singapore join, which is why a Singaporean always wins.
Yeah.
Because by just sheer numbers alone, they outnumber.
They weed out that like the one that stays. It's
Well-
definitely the best, or the one that can endure those times holding that
Exactly. But you think about it, there's 40 times more Singaporeans, I'm not sure, than there are Filipinos. So they have 40 times greater chance just
Yeah,
by
you're
sheer
right.
number alone
Yeah, you're
to
right.
win that car.
Yeah.
So it's not to say anything else, just they have the volume. But that's, nobody's saying it's unfair. It's a host country, right?
You're right.
If we were to hold it in Manila, we'd allow more Filipinos to join, etc.
That's true.
Now, nobody outside this, so it's only been a Singaporean to win.
Okay.
But this time, we have some people going back for their 4th time already.
Fourth time.
4th time. Some
Okay.
people, have, some of our Filipinos have gone for their 4th time, and they told me they know what it takes now. And the winner of the 2011 event, the guy who won the car, a guy called Casey Chong. Casey flew over here on his own account.
And joined?
No, he's not allowed to join. He came to support the Philippine team because he made friends with them, and he said to them, he got so enamored.
Oh, because they met
They
before.
met
Yeah,
in,
you're right.
in several years. Because Casey Chong, interestingly enough, Casey won at 42 years old, right? So he said
Okay.
age is not as long as you're not 80, right? I mean,
you're
but
right.
basically, if you're in the prime of your life, or if you're 40, George Lee, I think was 48.
Really?
Last year's winner was 48,
Wow.
sorry. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're 20-something, you're fit and all that.
Yeah.
You got to be fit up here.
Yeah, mentally, that's really a
And
big part of the game.
It is. And here's the thing I said, what are the biggest challenges? So he said this was the 6th time he joined.
sixth. Oh my gosh.
6th year. So he won on his 6th year.
Okay.
So,
oh my god.
yeah. So it basically would have been cheaper for him to get a 5-year loan and pay it off because he was there for 6 years.
Yeah.
But eventually he got the free car and then he sold it. I said, do you still
okay.
drive it? No, I sold it straight away.
Okay.
COE in Singapore,
For
the
you, okay.
certificate of entitlement
Yeah.
is crazy. So
I
I
know.
asked him the secrets to winning.
Okay, what did he say?
He said, make sure the marshals aren't watching. No. He said basically here, the secret to winning, he only figured this out in his 6th year. Before he competed against his people in his car.
All right.
He didn't talk to them. He didn't want to. He wanted them out. Obviously, when they're out, you win.
Okay.
The 6th year, he started encouraging them. He said you cannot win alone. You need to talk to each other, and you need to create a good environment for your
True.
car, and
Just to be able to pass time.
just to be able to
Yeah.
pass time. And then you have to be very mentally strong.
Yeah.
So he said that's what his secret to success was. That's number one. Number
Wow.
two, you have to deprive yourself of sleep. You have to get used to depriving yourself of sleep.
Oh my God.
He said he would practice as well, putting his hand on the car, etc. But he would practice more not sleeping. Because
Oh my.
he confirmed this story. His good friend was one of the last two. He was
Okay.
one of only two left.
And they had the same game plan.
Yes, not in this year though.
Okay.
This story I'm about to tell you, what didn't happen this year. The story I'm about to tell you is going to blow your mind, but it happened to his best friend or his close friend. There were just one of two people left. So whoever
Okay.
lifts off first wins, loses, right?
Yeah.
The other guy wins. So you imagine that's the longest time to pass is when there's just two people
Yeah,
left.
of course.
Because when there's 15, 20 people left, you know, it plays, you look around and you go, you're in so much pain.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make this. So you quit. But when it's just two of you that you can see the finish line, literally
Yeah.
see the
You're
finish line.
really, really close
All
to
you
it.
want to do is just make sure the other guy lifts off first,
Yeah.
right? So it's really,
Yeah.
I have a 50% chance of this. And then you can convince yourself you're stronger than the other guy. Well, what happened was eventually, because the guy who comes in second gets nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Not even a consolation
Nothing.
prize
No,
for that?
no, not even.
Ouch.
In fact, the last Filipino standing gets more than this guy because they have pocket little competitions for different countries. But if you're another Singaporean, you get nothing. You spent 81 hours of your life standing there in a car and you didn't.
That's insane.
It's insane, right? So, two guys hand there. First one to lift off gets nothing. The other guy gets the car. Guess what
Okay.
happened? His friend had his hand on the car, and after a few minutes, lifts off. Yes! Woo! Yes!
He was dreaming. He fell asleep?
Yeah! Oh, man!
Yeah, I think he told me.
High-fiving people and all that. And they said, dude, what's wrong with you?
You just lost it.
He said, no, I won. No, you didn't. The guy still... And then the penny dropped. This all happened in his head. You start to hallucinate. You start to
Because
just
of... Why do you lose?
lack
because,
of sleep.
Oh my
The
gosh.
lack of sleep will do it.
That's the 81 hours that you were talking about? No.
That was not even the 81 hours.
Oh
The
my
81
God.
hours was in 2008. This is every year. Even our Philippine team were telling me guys who I was speaking to about who had done this before. 67 hours. He said he thought he was in a farm.
Oh my God.
You know, you really.
I think
it's
you
crazy.
find some things that they think about, so you'll be able to pass the time quickly. That's the idea. But sometimes you're just so tired that you just give up and say that I'm gonna win this thing, and then the next thing you know, you're raising your hands.
Yeah, no, it's really nuts. Let's just check
Wow.
Twitter. We already have a
That's
few
just
questions
too
coming
painful.
through. It's too painful, but that's what makes the competition interesting.
Yeah.
All right, that's the Subaru Challenge. You probably still get a chance to join that if you go on motorimage.net/ph. That's motorimage.net/ph or facebook.com/I love Subaru.
So all you have to do is just sign up.
Just sign up as long as you're physically fit, you have a passport, you have no restrictions to travel. That's it. They're pretty lenient about everything, but they just want to make sure you're not on special medication because you're not allowed to do anything. You're not allowed to wear earphones, you're not allowed to wear a watch, you're not allowed a cell phone, you're not allowed to talk to people.
You're not allowed to talk?
No, not to other people.
Just the
outside.
contestants.
Just the other contestants and marshals you can talk to. But you really, basically, if you're on maintenance medication for something, you're not allowed to take anything.
You're
So you
right.
can't be on, like every 4 hours you have to eat, you're
Right.
diabetic, stuff like that.
They don't eat, right?
They eat every 6 hours. They get 5 minutes.
5 minutes only. Wow.
5 minutes break.
That's a bathroom break as well. So
That's everything. And
that's
I've seen people do everything in the same time. Bathroom, eat, and drink.
Oh no
Yeah,
way!
Exactly. Like they
Oh
go
my
in, they
gosh.
bring it into the portalette, and you're like, okay.
Wow.
But
Anything to win that
anything to
Impreza.
win. So that's the Subaru challenge for you. I have a very interesting thing. I've been doing a little bit of research on this.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear from you. That's
Yeah,
another
it's-
hot topic.
This
for
is the one I
James.
wanted to get some feedback and interaction with you guys. If you happen to be listening live, although most of our listeners are downloads. And by the way,
Yeah.
we hit 20,000 again last
That's
week.
amazing.
20,000 downloads. Thanks to all of you guys who have been actively downloading it on iTunes, and of course, there's also YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's picking up, and would love to be part of your motoring habit, and just share with you going on in the industry. Now, this is one big issue I have issue with. Okay, Republic Act 9367, or otherwise known as the Biofuels Act of 2006. They mandated us a few years ago, I think it was 2008 when it was implemented, they mandated us to use 10% ethanol and 2% CME. CME is cocoa methyl ester.
Okay.
It is basically a biofuel that is mixed in, blended into the fuel, supposedly to reduce our environmental impact, our emissions, etc.
Okay, did it improve?
Well, that's the thing.
Was there basis from those claims?
Well, that's the thing. The car companies had issue with the 10% ethanol.
Okay.
And even though the CME at 2% was minimal, they had a little bit of issue, but they decided, okay, let's try it. And they supported it only because they had no choice.
Okay.
Okay, now, anyone that's has ever read any article of mine or followed Counterflow or anywhere where I maintain some kind of an opinion, the Star, the magazine, etc., you'll know how active I am for the environment. When it comes to reducing our footprint. I've tried to pass the Alternative Fuel Vehicles Incentive Act, all these kinds of stuff. So it's in my natural best interest to want to see this. But I cannot, Alan, I have a problem with this because at 2% CME, okay, they are now trying to jump it up, and they even announced it, that they're going to jump it up to 5% by November. Now, what studies have been done? I want to know, and I'm putting this out there as a question, not as a criticism. I want to know from anyone who has any sort of could represent the other side, perhaps the CME manufacturers, etc.
Right.
How do we warrant justifying 5%? Anything you increase from 2 to 5, that's more than double.
Yeah.
And what has happened in the last 5 years? Can you show us any studies that have shown that there's any environmental impact whatsoever on having a 2% CME?
Yeah, and I believe that you mentioned this a while back, James, that only the Philippines use CME, right?
Only the Philippines, which is why there's no studies available to say what's beneficial, what's not. Yeah. Now, I think
Why was this approved in the first place if they don't have studies to back it up, right?
Well, okay, I don't want to start accusing or anything like that, but I can safely say that there's an entire industry that sprouts up.
Yeah.
Just try and think about it. You've got now, if we're selling, and I can pull up the figures here, if we're selling 20.2 million liters of diesel a day.
Okay.
Okay, count, what's 2% of that? 2% of that is CME, right?
You're right.
The people who make CME, that is how many?
Wow.
That's per day.
That's huge.
Now you're going to double that, more than double that to 5%. Okay, we don't mind on the condition that and this is
There's no price hike.
One, there will be a price hike because at the moment you're charging 97 pesos per liter of CME versus that's triple the price of raw diesel without the taxes. It's triple the price.
Wow.
They're paying 30 something for diesel without the tax. We're paying about 11 pesos per liter for tax. So you're charging 3 times more for that. So if you increase it by 5%, naturally there will be a jump.
Of course.
We don't mind that once again. I'm just putting it out there as a topic of discussion. I have no issue, and I'm sure most people will have no issue spending a few more centavos, maybe even up to a peso a liter, if we are guaranteed that this is helping the environment.
You're right.
Please show us that study. Number 2, also, we want to be guaranteed that this is not going to damage our vehicles, our engines. Our diesel engines nowadays are so sophisticated that when you introduce a foreign substance into it, like something that is a biofuel that has no studies, you could effectively be creating havoc with our engines. Number 1, CME in its raw natural, what it is hydroscopic, which means it attracts water rather than, so it attracts it. So in a country as humid as ours, when you leave it in your tank for how long, it will develop some kind of water. Now, that water gets into your injectors and it rusts out your injectors.
Yeah, you're right.
We all know that you don't want to put water in your fuel lines at all.
You're right.
It is hydroscopic. It's proven to be hydroscopic. What effect will it have? Another thing that it does have is because it's also used as food, this thing also becomes microbial growth also can happen. We just want to know what tests have been done. At the moment, only a 20-day test has been done with jeepneys. So
20 days.
20-day test has been done with jeepneys. and they've had 3 public
And they have
consultations.
2%, and now they're asking for 5%.
And now they're
That's-
asking for 5%.
that's crazy.
So all we want to know is you have to put it through 3 public consultations first. There were 3 public consultations, and all the consultants were the CME manufacturers. Not one came from the oil industry, not one came from the public. So we want to know where you are arriving at these figures. We want to know also, what's your fuel consumption, the effect on it? We know that if there's a different burn rate,
You're right.
we're going to have a different, and CME cannot possibly be, it can't combust in the same way.
You're right.
We just want answers to these questions. Another thing, pro-choice. We should have a choice. I don't think we should be imposed on
that's
having,
correct.
okay, if you want 5% CME, why don't we start it with the government? Government vehicles use it. Make it compulsory for them. Why don't we make it compulsory for the PUJs? Which, if it does have an environmental impact, you did a PUJ test for 20 days, make it mandatory for them. But for private vehicles who are yet to actually, I mean, have you worked on our cars? Our cars have very sophisticated computers, technologies, injectors, etc. Who's going to be liable for the damage if our cars are affected? Because the companies, the oil companies, they're saying they're washing their hands of this, but technically they cannot. Because they're saying they're now not assuming liability. If anything happens to your car, which they're convinced will, like the oil companies are convinced that this is not going to be bad news for any CRDI car.
But what do the car manufacturers say? Like Kia, they have they have CRDI
At the
engines,
moment,
they have
it's
Ford.
a little early days. That's why I'm bringing it up now, because the
Okay.
Campy and them have not come up with a formal announcement yet. At
Okay.
2%, they had little issue with it.
But-
Because it was just 2%. Now we've had 5 years on, but they did oppose ethanol. They did oppose ethanol. If ethanol is not compulsory anymore,
All right.
10% mix, you can buy fuel that has no ethanol mix in it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of older cars couldn't cope with the 10% mix of ethanol.
Yeah, only the new ones, right? From a
Only
certain
the new ones, and
year.
even some of them are still not equipped to handle ethanol. Ethanol needs different fuel lines and stuff like that that are less susceptible to drying out and cracking.
Oh, I see.
So these are long-term effects that you have in your car. And once again, we want these questions answered before we start investing in this. And another thing, we want to know why the haste? Why all of a sudden we want this done in November? I mean, really.
And why the increase if you don't have facts to back it up?
And another thing, we have a social issue. We're using food for fuel.
Yeah.
In a country that faces problems with real problems of starvation, why are we using coconuts for fuel when we could be using this to feed people? Another thing, ethanol, they said, is basically was the way of the future, all that.
Yeah.
We said, okay, does it really? Yes, there are studies to show. There are studies, and this one at least
I think we talked about it
we did.
a few years ago, and
years
it
ago.
was it beneficial for the motorist to?
Well, there are studies to support that ethanol has environmental benefits.
Benefits, okay.
And number one, we're using a renewable resource. Those are the arguments, and I can see that. Now, the renewable resource and the reduction in emissions has been proven, but the fuel consumption goes much higher.
higher, yeah, okay.
Much higher, almost twice as much if you're on full ethanol.
Yeah.
So 10%, you have to work out that. In fact, in Brazil, they're capable of running either or, right? They're flex
okay.
fuel. Because they can run up to 100% ethanol in their cars, or they can run 100% petrol. Their engines are designed for it.
I see.
Basically, your gasoline has to be, if your ethanol is double the price of the gasoline, they fill up with gasoline.
Oh, okay.
Or the other way around. No, if gasoline is twice the price,
Yeah, because ethanol
Yes.
is cheaper.
it's
of
cheaper.
course.
Sorry, ethanol is cheaper. It has to be half the price of gasoline for it to
Gasoline,
be
okay.
worthwhile. Because if it's
You're
any
right.
more than half the price, they're better off with gasoline because you use twice as much fuel with ethanol.
You're right. you're right.
So these are things. Now, that's another thing. Brazil has pro-choice.
yeah,
They
we're-
offer you both. You have a flex fuel engine. What they can't, you can tell I feel a little bit passionate about this. They can't impose this on us and then wash their hands later of liability. Because
You're right.
later on, when my car breaks down, who do I go to? Do I go to Shell, Petron, Caltex?
or her.
Who do I go to?
Yeah.
Do I go to the Philippine Coconut Growers Association? Do I ask them to
It's so
fix my
hard
car?
to fix this problem.
It is hard, and I want to know what's going on. Where's the motive behind doing this? Because, I mean, I've done quite a bit of research on this, and I'm preparing an article for it just because I want to know the answers to these questions. As simple as that. Now, we have 5 years behind us of track of, we've done this for 5 years now. 2008, I think, was when it was mandatory.
Yeah.
What studies have come out saying that we have some kind of environmental impact? I would like to know that.
Yeah, you're right.
Because so far, there's nothing. There's nothing that I've seen. I've asked around, and nobody can produce any internationally recognized study that shows us that, yes, this Biofuels Act has actually benefited us in this way. If you can't actually quantify it, what's the point of having it?
Yeah.
And another thing, they were saying with ethanol, as much as it is a pretty good step forward in terms of, okay, we're trying to use renewable resources and we're trying to push for up to 15% later on and all that. The argument was later to create an industry that helps. For example, you're helping the farmers. Right, so we're seeing some other advantages there, but we're importing 90% of our ethanol.
Wow.
90, we're the second highest, largest importers of ethanol in the world.
Yeah. Because we are not capable of producing ethanol, right?
It's not just
As
there's
big
no
as-
business model, there's no business case. If you
Okay.
ask a farmer, he'd rather sell that sugar cane to making sugar rather than ethanol.
There goes the answer to this, James. Yeah, you're right.
So, well, this is the only problem about having downloads rather than a live interaction, because I'd love to be able to talk to some of you people and think what you hear what
Yeah.
you think about this, because it's just one of those topics that, you know, fuel is a very boring topic to talk about. I know that, and you know, you can.
But
talk about-
everybody deals with fuel.
everyone deals with
Everybody
it.
uses fuel.
And at the end of the day, I'm trying to explain to whoever it is, the industries out there are trying to do this, and the people, more importantly, who are consuming this, how this affects your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Because it affects your day-to-day life in terms of, number one, your constitutional rights. I don't like being told what I can and cannot do when there's no proper study behind it. Otherwise, we will be mandating the all sorts of things like, okay, we will now mandate 2% added to our Maynilad water of something because somebody's got a contract that he wants to make money out of. I mean, I don't care if it's good or bad. Let's just go through the proper forms. I mean, if we're adding fluoride to the water, and there's an actual study there, which there are studies around the world that says the fluoride in the water helps the tooth decay, etc., blah, 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 and all this, then by all means. But if it's just because somebody wants to give his kamag-anak a business, then I don't want that either.
Yeah, same here.
Let's just, I think we're all sick of this situation now where we're being imposed. I'm not saying that it's an awful idea. I'm not shutting it down. I just want answers. I think we're all entitled to that. We're all paying good money for our fuel and good money for our cars. We just want to be guaranteed, right?
Yeah, that nothing's going to happen with our vehicles. If
And
ever
it's
we
going
get to
to the
use
right.
it.
It's actually having some kind of impact.
You're right.
Because at the end of the day, Alan, even if it doesn't hurt our cars, if nothing is happening, why are we making a lot of people wealthy?
You're right.
Because we're adding something that's, imagine otherwise we would just say, you need to add this to every liter of fuel. What does it do? Nothing, but it can't hurt you. But then now I'm selling 2 million liters a day of this product.
That's a lot of money that
a lot
can
of
be
money.
used.
And then because there's no actual, because we're the only ones in the world that use CME.
That's a big question mark already.
Yes, and I would like, and opening it up once again, I'm not actually, this is should be a two-way conversation. So if there is people or are people who oppose this, if we are the only ones in the world who use CME, I also want to know, how do we protect the price of CME? Ethanol, we have a price fix on because it's a commodity like gasoline, etc.
Yeah.
This can be controlled, supply, demand, etc. But if it's only just a local product, whatever, what's stopping people from just saying, okay, now it's 200 pesos a liter? If you're mandated by law to put 5% in,
You have no choice.
yeah, it's just bend over, baby.
Wow.
And, no lube for you.
That is crazy.
So I just wanted to put it out there. Let's talk
At
about
least it's
something
out there
happy.
already, and you're making an article, and pretty sure we'll get answers.
I wanted to get as much feedback from both sides. If there is, obviously you get pro, for, against, and all of that, and then of course the general reaction from people. But I would like to sort of get a gist of this because I think it affects all of us. Let's talk about something happier.
Happier, of course, F1 racing.
F1 racing.
Yeah.
Well, although it wasn't that happy.
Why is that?
Because Vettel ran away again. What have we got left for the championship?
I know that's. I always ask James, what is it with Red Bull? They always seem to be winning, and it's really hard for other team to be able to beat them this year.
I think they should really to be fair, they should change the announcements. They should not come up with headlines saying Vettel wins again in Monza. It should be Newey wins again in Monza, right?
Yeah, you're right.
I think because really the guy is just an absolute genius. Let's face it.
Yep.
And what he's done with the car, Alan was asking off air about what is it about Red Bull? Is it the engine? Well, the engine's one of them, but that's in the Lotus as well. So what's
You're
the
right.
difference between? Personally, I rate Kimi higher than I rate Vettel. And Vettel's fantastic, but I rate Kimi higher.
Yeah.
Why the big gap? The big gap is Adrian Newey.
Yeah. he's the
Adrian
guy
Newey
that-
has designed a car that you cannot credit just one component. You cannot say,
Yeah.
oh, he has the best rear diffuser, he has the best front wing, he has the best whatever. No,
Nope.
it's the way each component talks to each other.
You're right.
The way when you have a little winglet here, how that talks to the winglet in the back that creates an air distribution over such and such that does over the tires. It is a science that only somebody as brilliant as Adrian Newey and potentially I think Ross Braun can actually interpret and come up with a perfect balance.
You're right. It's been a while already.
It's going to be 4 in a row if he's
I
not
know.
careful. And the thing is, I watched Alonso yesterday, and I don't think, you're watching it going, I don't think they could have driven or done any better.
Yes, I think that's the best result that they can get over the weekend.
He didn't make any mistakes that I saw.
No mistakes.
Pit
And even when
strategy, etc.
Vettel pit, he was still out there on the track and it was really pushing really hard. And I was thinking that it might rain because it became gloomy, right? But it didn't. It was a dry
Yeah,
race.
we were
so
really hoping for either rain or safety
that could have
car.
changed everything.
Or a
James.
safety car.
You're right.
There's
Yeah.
no safety car. The gap just kept increasing and increasing. In fact, he was told to short shift both of them.
Yeah.
Weber
Can you
and-
imagine being told to short shift and you still
Dominating.
maintain that gap and dominate? It's just insane.
It's getting a little bit it's getting a little bit
A lot of the
scary.
old timers are saying that they're not enjoying F1 anymore because it's not as competitive as when you compare it to the McLaren Ferrari days. When
Yeah.
every race was just, you don't know who's gonna snatch the win.
And then
But
back
now-
then also, not in Michael Schumacher's time, but previously,
Yeah.
even if there was one strong car,
Yeah.
sometimes at least the teammates could fight.
You're right.
Now they're legally obliged to not fight. They're contractually obligated to kiss each other's butts.
You're
It's
right.
it's just great. Well, not each other's. Weber is told to kiss Vettel's butt.
All the time.
Poor guy. I mean, I just can't see how it's going to change. However, having said that, anything can happen in F1.
Yep.
I mean,
but the gap is from the constructors and
53,
drivers.
I think.
That's gonna be hard. But
Never mind
like
the constructors. That's over.
the drivers.
The drivers, it's 53 points. That's 2 races that Vettel needs to DNF.
Okay, and then
Then also Alonso needs to win.
win first.
Now-
No, not necessarily first to be able to close that gap. Does it have to be
What's
first?
that?
I mean, does it have to be first?
Yes, of course, because he needs 25 points
25 points.
per race.
Oh,
He
okay.
needs 50 points. If Vettel DNFs 2 races and Alonso wins 2 races,
races.
then there's 3 points between them, still in favor
Wow.
of Vettel. But we have
is tough.
175 points up for grabs.
Yeah.
We still have 7 races to go, including Singapore, which, by the way, we've always talked about. We've been talking about since last week. There's still an opportunity for you guys to go to Singapore at a rate of $1,141. That's a pretty good rate,
Wow.
considering it's your airfare, it's your hotel for 3 nights, 4 days, it's your race tickets as well, which gets you into
Yeah.
concerts as well, like Rihanna, Justin Bieber, The Killers, Owl City.
Wow.
So I mean, look, it's $1,141. It's
Not bad at all.
Under 50 grand. Yes, it's a lot of money, but it's a holiday / F1 weekend all combined. Because the beautiful thing about Singapore, which I really love
Okay.
about the race there, like Albert Park, probably even more so Singapore though. You see, in Singapore you can wake up at your leisure. Wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning, have your late breakfast in the
Okay.
in the hotel, right?
All right.
So you're chilled out. It feels like a holiday because you're chilled out. You walk around and you do everything you want to do in Singapore that day, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you feel like you're really on a holiday.
Yeah.
And then at night, walk over to the track because everything's walking distance
You're
or
right.
MRT.
Yeah.
You walk over to the track. We're staying 50 meters away from the gate in our hotel.
Wow.
You walk into the track and that's nighttime. So you sit there and you watch for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then You walk out and the party's on the streets. It's all there.
That's
You
crazy.
don't, not like when you are, I'll use Sepang as an example.
Sepang is
You wake
pretty
up
hard,
early in the
yeah.
morning, you have your breakfast, and then you're on the coach for about an hour and a half.
Plus the walk is just
Yeah,
intense.
it's
right?
about even 2 hours. If it's on race day, it can be up to 2 hours because of the traffic. So then you take your 2-hour shuttle, and then you get over to the track, and then you have that long, long,
walk,
long,
yeah.
long. Have you been to Sepang?
Yeah, I've been to Sepang.
Long,
Yeah,
long,
you're
long,
right.
long, 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 long walk. And once you get there,
You're tired already.
you're tired. It's stinking hot. As in stinking hot. You sit in your seat, and that's it. There's nothing really else left for you.
So would you rate Singapore as good as the Australian Grand Prix?
Personally, I favor the Australian Grand Prix because I like the opening. I
Yeah,
love
of
the
course.
opening
The
round.
start of the season is always you're
Yes.
on a high. You just don't know what to expect.
You don't know.
Yeah.
You're like by Singapore. Like now, we're going a little bit jaded.
right, I
Freaking
know.
Vettel again. You know.
Yeah.
So that car really has wings, man.
I know.
It really
They're
gives
just
you
too
wings.
fast. It's
So,
insane.
but I still prefer Melbourne in terms of. I like also Australia. It's a great country to go to. Melbourne is such a dynamic, cosmopolitan city
Yeah.
with so much character. So Melbourne, I would still say would be my favorite.
Okay.
But Singapore is a very close second, only because one, the proximity. It's
Plus
only
it's
3
different.
hours
It's at night, right?
It's at night.
Yeah.
So it's not so hot, especially in a tropical country.
You're
It's
right.
not so hot.
Yeah.
And it hasn't ever rained in the Singapore Grand Prix yet. So that's another advantage. Malaysia, it always rains, usually
Yeah.
this time of year, especially around 3 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Always rains. And if you're caught out there in one of those where you don't have shelter, oh, you're gone.
I know. It's hard.
And then the best part that I can say, because I'm going to be taking my wife this year. So it's a
Wow.
personal trip.
Okay.
And I'm able to take her, and yes, she is an F1 fan, but not as hardcore
As you, yeah.
as some people.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
The experience.
you
is
walk
what
in,
counts, right?
you watch the race, or you watch qualifying for an hour, and as soon as you walk out, you're right there. It's shops, it's malls, it's this, it's that. It's like you walked in to watch a movie.
You're right.
You didn't take a 2-hour trip in a bus to
Everything
get
is
there.
convenient,
There
easy
and back.
access. Yeah.
And then later on, by the time you get to your hotel, you're kind of tired already. Here, it's right there. Everything is within striking distance and all that.
Plus, friends, I've been to Singapore once, but wasn't able to try the good restaurants there. But most of my friends who go to Singapore say that the best thing to do in Singapore is to
Eat.
go on a food trip. Yeah.
You know, if you're a foodie, Singapore is like. I haven't had as much experience in Hong Kong, but I just love the food tripping in Singapore.
Yeah.
I mean, everything else. To be honest, if I'm completely 100% honest, I find Singapore a very, don't take this wrong way, but a very sterile city.
Okay.
It's very, everything works, everything's a little bit too perfect.
Yeah, you're right.
To the point where it kind of sort of, if I had a criticism, it feels like you're sucking the Asianness out of the country.
You're
Which,
right.
when you're traveling, you want to experience culture and all that. But it's becoming less and less because you could basically already be in the States.
Okay.
Singapore already has that feel that you could already basically be anywhere in the world. It's like
Yeah.
a theme park already. If
You're right.
if cities were a theme park,
Yeah.
Singapore would be it. Perfectly planned roads, perfectly green, perfectly the
You're
streets
right.
are lined with
Yeah.
the Cartier shops, the Louis Vuittons, all that. They have Sentosa, they have the Marina Bay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It is.
But it's still too perfect, except for the food. The food has retained all of its culture, all of its Asianness,
You're
all
right.
of its color and flavor is still there intact.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else is a little bit more sanitized,
Okay.
but not the food.
Not the food?
Not the food. The food, you
Okay.
can still find the hawker stands and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
that's what
and
they
really
say.
experience great cuisine.
And it's not that
not
expensive.
expensive.
All right.
Almost everything in Singapore can be expensive,
I know.
except food.
Wow.
Food is still very, very, very good. And in the beginning, Singapore was criticized for being too expensive for the hotels.
Okay.
They learned a lesson from that. They
So
brought
they-
the prices down like that. For $1,141, you can go through Red Rock and you can get that pretty much
Yeah.
done.
That
right?
package, everything.
Yeah, Red Rock, Red Rock Travel. Just look up Red Rock Travel.
You have Facebook,
Make sure it's
right?
the Philippines one.
Facebook. They have Facebook.
Yes,
right?
they have Facebook, and just look it up on Google, and then you can find the packages there. 1141 for a hotel accommodation as well as airfare and tickets. That is really a far cry from what it was in 2008. They were charging up to 3 or 4 times more
I
for
know.
hotels.
The hotels were really expensive. William told me back
Yeah,
then.
but no, they learned, and the novelty is sort of drifted down. Now, another thing about Singapore, like I said, the concerts. Tom Jones, man. Tom Jones and Bob Geldof are going to be playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Along with Rihanna.
Along with
and,
Rihanna,
the Killers.
along with Justin Bieber, the Killers, Owl City, a whole bunch of other
Yeah,
acts.
they've got performers for everyone.
Yes,
for
'cause every
every
night-
age, yeah.
every night of the week, and in different. In I think Padong is one area. They have another area for the oldies, for the Tom Jones people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all split up, and
How long does it take? For example, you're there watching the oldies sing, and then you want to check out Rihanna.
I think the oldies thing is exclusive to section Zone 1.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
There's
I think
sections, okay.
it's that one's exclusive to Zone 1. But Justin Bieber and the rest of them, Rihanna,
It's open to
that's Padong. I think it's called Padong area. That one, you can time it that
I
after the
see.
race, you still have enough time to get to there
Oh,
via
okay.
MRT, which is free
Alright.
as well. You use your ticket,
Okay.
and then get to the grounds. I watched Maroon 5, and we were
How is it? How is it
oh
going?
man, awesome.
Wow.
Maroon 5 were.
Were you close to the stage?
Not really.
Okay.
I left a little bit late, and I was somewhere in the middle of
Okay,
the crowd.
not bad at
There
all.
were probably, I would say, over 100,000 people
Okay.
there.
Did they sound good live? I'm pretty
They
sure.
sounded awesome live.
Okay.
Awesome, and I was blown away about how entertaining the act was. Adam Levine was just,
Yeah,
he's a fantastic performer. And
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
yeah, so, and it's free, man. It's just free.
I know. It comes if you get if you get to watch the Singapore Grand Prix.
I know. I wouldn't. I'm excited now because, like I said, first time I'll be able to take my wife and make her experience the whole
Wow.
F1 weekend, and to see a person's face the first time they hear the cars go by.
Yeah.
It's really an
So
experience.
this is the
on its
first
own.
time for Shelly?
Absolutely.
crazy.
I took my son to Albert Park, and so it's really I'm backing up what I say because
Yeah.
Albert Park and Singapore are I think the two best ones for us locally. I'm not
Okay.
talking. If you live in Europe, there's probably a different.
You've been to China, James. How is
Been
it?
to China. It's my least favorite.
Well, is it because of the crowd? Or is it because of the
Everything.
track? The track is nice,
The
right?
track's nice, but we don't get to drive it, do we?
Yeah.
My least
You're
favorite
right.
is China. I find that one is just lost all.
They
its-
just, don't know what they're doing there.
They,
right?
I find too much hakot. They bring in the crowds. They tend to just give the tickets away because, you know,
What?
like corporate, they get
Oh,
to
okay.
fill up the
They're,
seats.
they're really not big fans of F1.
They're not
which is-
generally organically big fans of F1, so
Yeah.
it's a bit contrived. I find that once again, it's a super long drive out.
Okay, also in China?
Yeah, it's a super long drive out.
Not
and
not as bad as Malaysia, right?
It's actually worse because the traffic jams are worse. In
Oh my
China. I
gosh.
haven't been there since I think
Right.
2012 was the last time I went there, or was it 2011? You know, F1's like pizza, right? When it's good, it's good. When it's
Yeah.
bad, it's still good.
You're
I mean,
right.
you can't really do a bad F1 experience.
Yeah.
But of course, definitely, I would rate for a first timer, especially 'Cause
Albert Park is
remember,
sort of
once
best.
again, I'm talking to first timers. If you are a seasoned F1 person,
Mm.
you will travel no matter what, and
Yeah.
you will embrace China for what it is because
Mm.
it is the Chinese Grand Prix.
You're right.
You're not trying to force it to be something
Mm.
it's not. This is what it is, and I've experienced it. The Spanish Grand Prix will have a different flavor to the Italian Grand Prix, to the German Grand Prix. An experienced fan,
Yeah.
he's already sold.
You're right.
I'm talking to the first timers, my favorite races, and I'm talking from our geographical position, right?
Yeah.
Our geographical position is for Filipinos. Going to Singapore is a no-brainer because it's so close, and there's no visa requirements. You don't have to fuss around with that.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a night race, and you're right in the heart of the city. Those are the least major points. Australia would be a great one because it's a season opener.
But you have to fork out more
It's a
money
little more
because-
expensive. I find it's a different vibe altogether. But
You're
you know,
right.
if you can afford it,
You told me a lot of people said that you've got that family vibe because everybody just hanging out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Singapore retains the same type of thing.
Oh,
You can
okay.
take kids there and all that. where you can take kids to Malaysia, of course. I mean, there's no drama.
It's just
But-
the hassle of getting to the track and watch the Grand
Yeah, I
Prix.
mean, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. I would just, for first timers, I would recommend the Singapore Grand Prix.
Cool.
And there's still time to do it. So basically, talking about F1, we've hit our own checkered flag. We got to wrap it up here. It's been
I know.
another very fast show. We didn't really get to talk too much about Monza, except
Yeah, I know.
Alonso made the selfie popular again. Did you see
I know,
that?
I saw that.
And did you see the actual picture? He put it on Instagram. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's just
I saw
a
it,
sea of
yeah.
people behind him.
And you can tell that Alonso was really, really happy getting that second spot.
Yes, but you know, I can't feel, but never mind. We'll talk about it next week.
Okay.
We'll be back again next Monday. We hope you can join us. Be one of the 20,000 downloads and make yourself count. If you can't make yourself count, Counterflow. Like that?
Wow.
That could be a new tagline. See you
Wow,
guys.
yeah, you're
Bye.
right.